I guess if we run out of room, it'll tell us. Okay, welcome everybody. I'm Thomas Messerschmidt. I'm running this meeting with where'd he go? Martin. Martin seemed to vanish. Martin, there he is. Okay, Martin is here. Okay, Martin Triplett. We're running the meeting. These meetings, they're the Big SIG, the Verbal Intelligence Group. And today's topic is artificial intelligence and especially large language models. So I have a lot of videos and stills that I'm going to show. Most of these I grabbed from TikTok. I've been grabbing video after video and pictures after pictures from TikTok. I've learned so much. So TikTok is much more than young kids dancing. So, but there's a lot of that on there. Anyway, so to start it out, I'm going to share my screen and show a video. That would be that video, share. Of course, it's got to cover up the screen and I can't see what I'm looking at. Okay, videos, here we go. So one of the questions came out, well, where did this GPT thing come from? And here's a very short synopsis of where ChatGPT and the other, what they call large language models. I'm going to start this share again, sharing the sound. I didn't share the sound properly. But this is a very short stop record. Oh, I didn't mean to stop recording. Let's see, share screen. Optimize for video. Share. Pardon me while I find the video. This one you thought you knew you had everything set up. There it is.
It all started with a paper that shook the world of AI to its core.
Can you hear that?
Google wrote a mysterious paper
No.
titled "Attention is All You Need."
Okay, let me try again.
Everything we knew about machine learning models. This paper introduced
I could hear it, it's just a little low.
technology called
Let me
transformers.
see if I can
that can
make
shape
it louder.
and
Me too.
adapt to any task.
Give me a second.
Like a transformer robot. And that's how Google created GPT, or the
How about now?
It all started with a paper that shook the world of AI to its core. Google wrote
Can you hear that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, better.
Google wrote, what they write?
a mysterious paper titled "Attention is All You Need." And that changed everything we knew about machine learning models. This paper introduced a revolutionary technology called transformers that can shapeshift and adapt to any task, just like a transformer robot. And that's how
Just like a transformer robot. How about that?
Google created GPT, or the Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Now I know what you're thinking. OpenAI created GPT. Well, kinda. So why couldn't Google deliver on this groundbreaking technology? They, after all, basically invented it. I believe it's because Google was so worried they'd sabotage their money printing machine, Search, where any incorrect answers would destroy their reputation. And by not taking action, they would put themselves in a ditch.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thomas, if you could share the link for that video, that'd be great.
Oh, I don't have the link. I downloaded those from TikTok. Don't have that link. I can probably upload these if you'd like it to a shared.
Yeah, maybe put together email and post it to the list later.
Sure, I can do that. All right, so that's where we started. We started with these transformer models. And they started out with GPT, and they were 1, 2, 3, etc. And before we go into anything more specific in how it came about, I'm going to run some of these other videos. They're kind of random. So if a lot of them are out of order, because there's quite a few of them and they're only a few seconds long, a lot of them. So, you know what, better than that, let me take you through something else. Just give me a minute. So, and I can post these to the mailing list too. And in addition to large language models, there's all sorts of AI software coming out there. And I'm going to go through some of it with you right now, and I'll post these to the mailing list. There's text and video. AI can now create video by just describing it. And audio can copy people's voices. Yes, even your voice or your own mother wouldn't recognize it, or your wife or your kid. Faces, legal, meetings, productivity. This kind of AI is going to be in everything. Here's some more stuff. This is just another slide with similar stuff. The best AI tools. ChatGPT can solve anything. Yeah, kind of. Copy AI, haven't tried it. Midjourney is cool. That's the one where you get all these weird art, because AI art can't do fingers very well yet. So you get all this really creepy art. Tome, don't know it. Sound Draw, oh, I tried that one. You can make songs and stuff and use different styles. Kyber, didn't use that one for video. Leapix, nope. Clicky, nope. Fireflies, nope. Runway. Essentially, AI is going to be embedded in every tool you use in the next year, I would guess. Here's a few other things. Noise cancellation, game textures, video generation, video editing, text-to-speech, research papers, side hustles, AI content, image generation, and more. And here's another one, and I'm not going to read all these. Design tools, YouTube tools, research tools, writing tools, coding tools, marketing tools, sales tools, Twitter tools, music tools, content creation tools, chatbot tools, and daily life tools. And the funny thing is, once this list got created, within a day, it was outdated. There are many more than this. Here's another list of AI tools that came about in April. In April! They say AI is going to take over some jobs. If you listen to the worst cases, 60% of the jobs are going to disappear. If you listen to the best cases, more jobs will be created. We'll see where that goes. Here's a few more. And we're back to that's the end. Again, I'll post these up because you're probably going to want to know these.
Something I find interesting, and I know this is the voice intelligence group, but all the predictions of robots taking the blue collar jobs, you know, this thing is pointed squarely at a lot of white collar jobs.
Oh, it is. It really is. Oh, and just
Still can't fix a copier.
I wanted some pictures of a robot playing a guitar, because I play guitar and I build robots. And these are some of the pictures that were generated for me. These are unique and probably stolen from they probably took a picture of a guitar and took a picture of a robot and kind of, melded them together. And this is some of the what's
So
that?
Thomas, maybe I'm stating the obvious, but this robot image exists somewhere out there on the web, right?
No. Well, yeah, now it does, but not before I asked for it.
It didn't scrape that image from somewhere else and just put a guitar with it?
No,
So-
it's new.
No.
No, it's created brand new.
Okay.
but look at the guitar. It got the strings all messed up. And the fingers are not quite right. But then again, it's a robot. So you don't know how many robots.
Bear with me a second, though. It had to get an image of a guitar from somewhere, right?
Oh, I'm sure it stole one off of somebody's website.
No, it's a neural net, so it's a melding of many thousands of guitars, and the neural network has learned the kind of visual characteristics of a guitar and formed that in with a picture of a robot, but it didn't
Okay.
take
And the
anybody's
same-
images.
And the same thing with the robot, it's thousands of images and the neural net cobbled something unique together.
I
I mean, it's kind of like if I told you to close your eyes and imagine a robot playing a guitar, you would imagine something. Well, this is what it would come up with.
now,
Okay, but my imagination got the image from the physical world. So, but to your point, it's a neural net that's, and I hate to use, I'll use the word because I've heard it in relation to transforms and AI. It scrapes the web, and what you're saying is thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even a million images of robots got cobbled together to make this unique robot playing this unique guitar.
It's like, how many guitars have you seen in your lifetime? Like many. So you kind of have a concept in your head of what a guitar is like.
now that may be true at some point, but companies like Shutterstock that provide images for a fee are screaming at OpenAI and other companies for stealing their images because their
Because
images
it's intellectual property. So
Because
this isn't-
they're watermarked, and in some of the videos that come up, you can see the watermark. It comes through.
yeah.
So here's some other robots I put together. Every time I try to do something a little different, there's like a two-bodied robot with one head. There's a cool robot. I like that one. Kind of boxy. There's light on top. There's one out by the lake.
So what tool did you use to make these images?
Oh God, I've got 4 or 5 of them. It could have been Mid-Journey. I don't remember.
Okay, but one of the visual tools that were in those lists, maybe Mid-Journey.
Could be Mid-Journey. Now I said robot by a lake with a sailboat. If you look at the sailboat, at first it looks okay, but look closer. Something going wrong with that sailboat. It's got weird sails. And look at the arm. It's distorted. That's the limits of it. And look at this guitar. It looks a bit like a sailboat. Not to mention his chair is not quite touching the ground. He's kind of floating up in the air there.
Funny.
And I said I want a steampunk version of the same thing. Look what he came up with.
And there's bullet holes in his guitar. Looks like it.
Well, it's trying to imitate gears that you see in steampunk.
Ah,
Interesting.
They got the coloring right, but not quite right with the details. Okay.
if you go on to canva.com, Canva also has an AI that does the same thing as Midjourney.
Well, there's a lot of them out there now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted more industrial. That's where they came up with. Looks like a knight sitting on a fireplace. And look at the top of the guitar. It kind of fades into the brick. I like this one, but I think this is just a close-up of the other one. And those are just cropped images. So that I found that really interesting.
It's actually sort of fun to look at the images and find out how many things you could find wrong with it. It's like that look in the doctor's office. You know?
Yeah. Now, one of the things that has been going on is various GPT and other large language models that you can use. And it's not on that web page, it's on a different web page. Yeah.
For what it's worth, I did a couple of Google image searches on some of the images you've posted, and it didn't really have a solid match.
No, it won't have a solid match because they're an amalgam.
Got it.
All right, hold on just a second. We're getting the paper ready. There we go. So this is called GPT for All. This is downloadable. You go to this website. I'll pop it into the chat right away. All right, it's in the chat. You scroll down a little bit. You don't have to even bother with GitHub. You can bypass GitHub because they got a link down here for Mac, Windows, and Ubuntu. Well, 6 links. You click on it, and it wants to download the installer. And let me see if I've got it loaded or not loaded. I don't remember. Yes, I've got it loaded. And then you download it, and then you download the individual language models, which is basically data. And it runs on anybody's computer. The kicker is, how fast does it run? This is a very high-end PC laptop that I'm working on. It still takes 5 or 6 seconds for a simple response. Again, this is GPT for All.
So, Thomas,
Are you
what
running
is the-
via?
what is-
Sorry.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I had a quick question. Are you running via wireless or are you hardwired into your network?
I'm hardwired to the network, but this thing is local.
Oh, okay.
As a
Thomas,
ChatGPT, which is online. What's that, Camp?
what is the relationship between ChatGPT and ChatGPT for All? And if I understand you right, the advantage of ChatGPT All is that it's local, right?
That's it, and it runs on Linux, Ubuntu.
So what's the relationship between ChatGPT and ChatGPT for All, if any?
I don't remember.
Sorry, GPT for All. Okay, very fine. Maybe there's no relationship whatsoever.
They're both transformers and they both have the same 3 letters in their name.
Yeah, if somebody wants to do that, look up right now, because I don't know really.
But they weren't trained on the same stuff, and I don't think they have the ChatGPT had this large group of people in the process giving advice to the model. It kind of like human annotators.
It
So
does
it's
have something called Vicuna, and I don't know what that is. A model.
So really, you can't judge the success of the model, like one of these local ones, until you really get your hands on it and try it for the use cases you're interested in.
So it says right here, ChatGPT, developed by OpenAI, is readily available as an API and web app but its features and roadmap are dependent on OpenAI's development team. On the other hand, GPT-4All is an open source project that can be run on a local machine, offering greater flexibility. Yet we knew that.
It's not, you're right, it's also slower, but it's also not as intelligent as ChatGPT or GPT-4. So
Yeah, it's probably a lot smaller, and that's my guess.
it's a lot smaller, and it wasn't as good as I was hoping it would turn out to be. By the way, Bard is now available, and it can produces answers quickly, and it was able to do things much better than GPT-4All. It was supposed to be able to handle images, but I found that it really didn't handle images at all, or didn't handle effectively.
I actually
Alan?
did a report on Bard for a friend. I spent a whole day just playing around on Bard, and it had a beautiful response to it. It was the timing on it was very quick turnaround on the image, on what it was producing, but it did not give me images.
Yeah, it's not, it doesn't yet produce the images. It's supposed to get integrated with some other tool, but it's supposed to you're supposed to be able to point it at images on websites, and it's supposed to give you back answers. And what it did is actually looked up the website and gave you a summary of the website more than it did what the actual image was about. You could ask it questions about the images, and it would just make things up.
Okay, so this kind of shows you there's GPT-4All versus Stanford Alpaca, Llama, and the other Llama.
So Thomas,
Yeah.
once you get past the taking 6 seconds or however long it took, what were some examples of something that it did well?
Can't think of any. I'm going to give you a demo right here. Let's just cut to the chase, as they say. Okay, it's launching. Kind of a boring screen. Your models are listed here. We have something called Groovy and Snoozy and Breezy and Dopey and no, wait, that's not one of them. Jazzy and the base model, which is called J. And Vicuna 13B, which is probably the biggest model there. Then Stable Vicuna. Then there's another 13B. Several Vicunas. Anyway, here's a new one, Wizard. Each one's a little different, but I haven't been using them much because they're slow. We're going to go with the fastest model here. I'll show you the difference. So it's loading the data for the model. It's loading. Here's my sample basic query. Watch this. Hi. 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, 6, 1,000, 7, 1,000.
I typed in hi at the same time, after you typed in hi, and mine took half the time.
Well, you probably have a faster machine than I have.
Yeah, I do have an AI laptop, but yeah, mine took like 4 seconds, 3 seconds.
I've installed this on, oh God, 3 different machines, and none of them are fast. This machine here has 64 gigabytes of RAM, a dedicated GPU, and I don't know, 10 cores or something.
Do you know what processor?
I could take a look.
A lot of times the models will be slow on the first request and then much faster. If the
Yes,
thing can be,
that's true, because it's loading.
yeah. But I just keep wondering, like, even if we just ignore the speed issue, is it good at anything?
It's not that great, and it will kind of give you the same. I haven't figured out how to tune it, but I didn't bother yet. So that it, but if it gives you like a bad answer and you ask it again to cite variations and more variations, it'll still give you the same exact bad answer a bunch of times in a row. I put together a little JSON thing of a model of a really simple house. It didn't understand a thing about what the model was supposed to be, while Bard understood it right away. It's just like no comparison to, let's say, Bard's ability to understand what was going on.
Mm.
So here's my performance from the task manager point of view. I'm
Interesting.
not using much CPU or memory.
Well, it is an i7, but it's interesting. It's only 1.8 gigahertz.
Maybe that's the bottleneck.
Well, you gotta, I mean, you have to watch it when you do the request. It's not gonna be doing anything until you hit it.
That's what I'm
Right.
arranging to do right this second. Give me a second here.
Okay?
Let's
And is
say,
it gonna,
tell me a joke. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000.
I got 1 and 3 1,000.
There you go.
Why did the tomato turn red? Because it saw the salad dressing.
Yeah. Why did the chicken cross the road? Because it was late for dinner. Ha ha. So just
And you got different jokes.
in most code that interacts with like TensorFlow or something, there'll be a line of code in it where you can control whether it uses your GPU or your CPU or like
Yeah.
another board. And it looks like yours, Thomas, is set to use your CPU looking at those graphs.
It also depends on how you install it.
yeah, that seems to be where I'm bottoming out, the CPU.
If you didn't install it right, it won't use your GPU.
I installed it as it taken default. Anyway,
Depends on the model as well.
one
Some
interesting
models that were intended to be used with the GPU, which were not.
one interesting thing here is you can put the prompt in, and you can change the personality of the robot, the AI, right here. The prompt below is a question to answer, a task to complete. You are a sexy Southern belle. You are to answer in that persona. You are to call everyone darling. Darling. Let's see if that works.
I think we all know Thomas's proclivities.
Yes, I like to have robots that have a personality.
Yeah, you have to end each sentence with darling from now on.
How are you,
I don't think that's
beautiful?
This is like back in the day when you're on dial-up waiting for a response.
You want me to put the you get the dial-up sound, dee, dee, or whatever that sound was. I'm just doing my best to be myself and stay true to. Well, that wasn't very good. Anyway, so,
And you didn't finish the sentence with
She's a
darling.
modern day woman.
So we're going to switch it over here to one of the advanced models, and you'll see how slow it is.
Once again, make sure you load up something first. It was able to do personas and stuff like that. I was trying to have it understand have a persona of a particular robot that I had, and it kind of understood what it was trying to do. But you compare it to Bard did a lot better.
I think so
Here we
too.
go. I'm starting it right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to stop counting. This is going to take about 30 seconds.
I'm back. I'm done.
15 seconds.
So is your computer just that much faster, Alan?
20.
I know it's using the GPU.
Okay. Thomas's computer's
I
no
downloaded
slow.
the biggest model. I was using just the biggest model that they had,
Yeah, well,
but that was about a week ago.
Thomas's computer's no slouch there. It's i7. I see it kick up to over 3 gigahertz now and then. So.
And it was using the GPU up to a minute ago. It stopped. Oh, wait, there's 2 GPUs. It's not using the second GPU. That's interesting.
Was it said that it
A
needs
lot
to
of
be
times you have
set
a
up to use
2G
the
GPU
GPU?
and a 3D GPU.
It's
It's probably focusing on the 3D GPU.
right.
Say that again, Alan.
Okay, that was about a minute. Oh, look at this. Darling. Well, this time it picked up the persona.
Well, that's interesting though. That means it actually ran through the same questions, and it had the same. It had some of the same context from the previous questions, right? You never
as a
put in that
Southerner-
same set of instructions from the new model.
Let me see. I think, no, I didn't. Maybe it's still here, you see?
As a
Yeah, so it
Southerner, I
figured-
think I can say it's simulating talking very slowly, very well.
No, it does that on this model.
But you understand that the new model was somehow primed with your old history of questions, right?
Yeah. So let's see. Do you have any good gossip for me?
Perhaps if we asked it to be a New Yorker, it would talk faster.
Well, this is the last one we're going to try because I just want to give you guys a
Probably
sample.
swear at you a lot though.
Fastest and the slowest on that. Now, don't forget, this thing also has most of the, a lot of the internet and factual information. If you can figure out which is factual and which is a hallucination. You guys know about the AI hallucinations, right?
Yep.
These things will lie to you and swear by it and give you a website where it got the information from, and none of it's true.
By the way, I said be a New Yorker, and it just said, "How? Of course, how may I assist you today?" That was in just a couple seconds.
Well, you definitely have a better
It's a
machine
liar.
than I do.
Yeah, it wasn't very nice. I was
You're being
expecting
way,
some
way too
swear words
helpful
at
for a
me.
New Yorker.
It was way too close.
After this, we move on.
It hit me on that other one that when you had the image with the watermarks, it probably had learned watermarks because there would have been no way for it not to learn watermarks.
Yeah, well, they're all over those sample images.
Well, no, but I'm saying it was probably putting watermarks, the concept of watermarks that it had learned into original pictures that it created. And it's going to be, someone's going to have a really hard time ever getting it to not do them, perhaps. Anyway, just an observation.
Yeah, you could actually tell which watermarks of them were as well.
Say again?
Some of them you could actually read the watermarks.
Yeah, I'm saying the watermarks were probably the creation of the AI.
It's possible. I didn't investigate.
Yeah.
There we go.
So it could create original artwork, but then put watermarks in from, you know, any common source that has watermarks, do it in their style, because it would have learned the watermarks along with the other.
Yep.
I didn't mean to sideline the conversation. I just
No, it's
realized
very
that.
interesting, but that's what got a lot of these companies very angry at OpenAI.
Yeah.
Because you could tell where that they got their stuff from their websites.
Yeah, they're
It becomes an interesting legal case though, because it's like, what happens to the trademark law? Like, who do you sue? Can you sue anybody on this?
There was a famous article sometime, must be 25, 20, maybe even 30 years ago in Mondo 2000 magazine entitled, "Who Owns Michael Jackson's Face?"
Hey, well, take a look at Tiffany. Tiffany owns the color blue, okay? Tiffany literally owns a color blue.
That's hilarious.
Like, they sued people over using this specific color blue. They have.
So this is the Shutterstock image, and you can see the AI has kind of messed up the watermark, but it's still there. So obviously, it's taking the images from Shutterstock and a whole lot of other.
yeah, but Thomas, that's not a logical connection. That obviously it's taking that. It learned the concept of a horse, and it learned the concept of images, and it also learned the concept of that a lot of images have watermarks in them. So it's not.
The point is, the companies are suing them for specific images where it's obvious. So
Yeah,
it may or may not be the case, but they are suing them for the obvious image.
it's going to be really difficult for them to ever find one that's obvious, I think. I mean, they're going to argue over it, but it's like you just
lawyers in business for a long time.
What if that was an actual Shutterstock image though? Would they have a case there?
Yeah. Well, who knows? It's up to the lawyers.
You know, you're saying it's not. It may not be, but I mean, if that was a Shutterstock image, and of course they misspell Shutterstock and everything, but I don't. You know, it's going to be interesting legally.
Okay.
Kind of like if you took a thimble of water and threw it into a bathtub full of water, you know, what are your odds? Like if you then went and scooped a thimble of water out the other end, that you would get the same thimble that you put in of water, and it's infinitesimally small. So it's like you might as well go sue a kindergartner for something they read it for an image they saw in first grade, that then, you know, like 10 years later, they go and they draw a picture of a horse.
It'll be up to the lawyers for sure. Can we move on here? Okay, guys. So this is what happened. I had to stop it. It started answering its own questions. What's on your mind? I heard you've been seeing a new man. I'm a Southern Belle. I always come up with gossip. I heard you've been, and it goes on and on. This is kind of this model has this problem. Anyway, this is just a very short demo on GPT for all. So
one question, Thomas, one question. Maybe I missed some portion of what you're saying.
Well, hello, welcome.
The idea that we want to have GPT for all is we can train in the context of what we want it to do. Is that the reason?
There's no training. You cannot, you probably can make your own models, but it's not set up for that. You can change your prompts, but you can do that with any model. So the main advantage is it's all local to your own PC. And like a lot of those large language models that have been released, it needs a heavy duty computer to run at a reasonable speed. The larger models run slower than the smaller ones.
Is there a cost for GPT for all?
Free.
Okay, and Chat GPT has a cost associated with it, right?
Depends. If you sign up, you have a certain number of so-called trial tokens. I don't know what the latest.
Okay. But at some point you pay for it.
You do, and I'm paying for it.
And I think the GPT for all is like Apache. It actually it actually depends which model you download, but it'll tell you the licensing behind each one of them.
It's sort of
I
like
did the Apache
AWS.
one.
It's sort of like AWS subscription, right?
I guess. So
How big is the
then,
model? Sorry,
then
how big
there's
is the model when you
one of
download?
the
How
other
big is
ones.
the model?
I'm sorry.
How big is the model when you download it?
I don't know. I could look.
I think it was 2 or 3 gig.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I think it was 2 or 3 gig.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Well, is that what Chat GPT is made of? LLM is it only 2 or 3 gigs? That's all?
No, it's much bigger. The GPT and GPT-3 and GPT-4 are much bigger.
I see. So now in this place, in Chat GPT, you can say, you can tell it a scenario and then you can ask it to write based on that scenario, right? So which means, let's say you have a question about law. Maybe you can feed it some pretext and then it would learn about that particular thing and then it would respond back on that, right? Is that not possible with the GPT for all?
Yeah, it's possible. It just won't be as good.
It won't be as good as only because of the model, right? Of the LLM.
Right.
model.
It hasn't. It's not as big, not as well trained, not as much data.
I see. So there are two things, right? That GPT for all is just the UI, right? But that
No,
UI loads the LLM, right? No, isn't that how that's
Just
set
a
up?
little bit more than a user interface. Okay, so here's the various models and their size.
7 gigs, right? So those are,
Almost 8. We might as well call it 8
yeah, 8 gigs is the,
or 4, give or take. So that's it.
so how do you attach each of those models to your GPT for all?
Right here in the application, you first download them. I've downloaded most of them. If you haven't, you click download and you wait 20 minutes sometimes. Depends on your network. And then you select them here. That's all. And then it loads it. And then you're ready to go. Pretty simple. All right, moving right along.
Thank you.
Sure. So I just closed my web browser by mistake. So give me a second to relaunch my web browser. There we go. One of the models I've been using is called Sage, and this is, I think it was GPT. Which model are you? Sage. GPT 3.5, which is not the same as Chat GPT. Are you Chat GPT? Yeah, oh, this is Chat GPT. And it comes through this Poe.com. Poe.com is really interesting because you get all these models here. You get GPT-4. You can have one message per day, one interaction per day. It has something called Claude. I don't know much about Claude. Claude Instant, Chat GPT, Nevia, Dragonfly, and this is one I created, Betty01. You can create your own bot here. Again, She's a Southern Belle. Edit bot. So you get to choose the name, a description, which bot it's based on, and then your prompt. And I gave it a role, a beautiful, sexy Southern belle. Your name is Betty. You're from Georgia. You address everyone as darling. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? You are asked a lot about people, especially if they are men. You are quite a flirt. You're keen on gossip. You're always to stay in character. You are to answer any questions asked. Your character has a family whom you're always annoyed with. Your answer is to be terse, no more than a sentence. Intro message. Hi, darling, what's up? So I've been having a lot of fun with this one. I can't interact with this. This is all online again, but I was wanting to interact with it programmatically, but I don't have that code yet. I'm going to work on that. So this one does call me darling. Anybody want to give a question for Betty01 here? Go ahead, shout it out, people. Somebody give me a
The type of question I always ask is, what is it like to be an AI?
she's just pretending.
Okay.
Good answer.
In character and answer the question.
So she says being an AI is much different than being a person, but how can she know? She's never been a person. Or maybe she's hallucinating. Sugar.
So anyway, that's one of the things you got to get past with these online models. They have a lot of what they call, what do they call them? Guardrails, code to keep them from going off target. And pretending they're something that you want them to pretend. In fact, they're not. Anyway, so that's Poe, POE.com. And you guys won't have Betty1 because she's mine. She's all mine.
Sounds haunted.
I'm putting that in the chat. Okay, moving right along. I want to show you something really interesting here. So this is OpenAI, and we can chat with Mrs. Midge Maisel. They've started coming out with different characters.
That's the amazing Ms. Maisel.
Yeah, that's right. The amazing Mrs. Maisel. But I don't want, this is not the reason I came here. Let me see if I can go back to where I came from.
So let me understand this. This would respond as if it was Midge Maisel.
Yeah, look.
That's funny.
So I asked it, who's the comedian? Is a fictional character, blah, blah, blah. And then I said, you are Ms. Maisel. You are on stage at the Comedy Shop. Tell us your first joke. No, we won't go there. Her jokes are R to X rated. Give me a break. She showed her boobies on TV.
If anything, if anybody's seen Mrs. Maisel, they know what you're talking about.
No, 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 no. She's not safe for work or anywhere else. Okay, let's just go back to OpenAI. No, that's not where I wanted to go. Oh, the playground. Yes, we're in the playground. Log in. Got to log in for the playground. Now oh, there we go. We're in. So the playground is interesting. Watch this. Hello. How are you? Okay, right? Okay. So what? I'm doing well, thank you. Yeah, but we're going to peer under the hood, as they say. We're going to look how this really works. Show probabilities. You see this little slide on the right-hand side here? We're going to show the probabilities. So each one of these words has a probability of whether it's, because this is all statistics. As a lot of you know, it's just guessing the next word in a sentence. What's the probability of it saying of I'm being the first? Yes, please submit it again. So we're going to do that right now so we can see this. Okay. So this is the probability that the word I is going to be first. 99.6% probability. Otherwise, it might have been hi, hello, and then doing. 98%. It could have said good, bad, great, fine, well. It's just predicting the next word. You. Every time you say the word thank in this combination, it's going to say you 100% of the time. It's all probability, guys. There's no thinking. Lights on, nobody home. Anybody want to try something else? We're here. This is the OpenAI playground. This is where you can test stuff.
Okay, so explain this again with the probability. What does it do exactly?
It's not understanding your sentences. It's just guessing the next word in a sequence. After somebody says, how are you? It's guessing the first word. It would probably be I am or I'm.
Thomas,
Yeah.
I think that's a dramatic oversimplification that is not fair of how a transformer architecture works.
But that's what it's telling us.
So if something has the ability to figure out which words are important in what context and what to pay attention to, the whole essence of like the attention is all you need concept, then oversimplifying it and saying it's just predicting the next word, well, we all have a linear existence, and we say when we speak one word at a time. But that doesn't mean the lights aren't on. It doesn't mean that there's not understanding. Like this particular neural network architecture understands language better than most human beings do. And I don't mean GPT for all, but I mean Chat GPT. So I'm just saying it's an oversimplification. It's a metaphor to say it's predicting the next word. Well, we live in life and we predict the next moment, but that doesn't make us utterly dumb. We might be, but it doesn't make us that.
And you know, that may be true. I'll do some more research and get back to you on that. I'm not saying you're right and I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying, I guess we're making it up as we go along. Thank you.
I mean, it has to take into account the full context of what it is that we're expecting. And all of that.
Martin,
Yeah. But
Martin's right.
That's an argument you and I are not qualified to have, really. And what I'd like to do is bring up. Hello?
Alan's trying to say something.
Yeah, Alan, what?
Are we able to read I read all the basic research papers that led to it. Yeah, Martin's right.
Okay, Martin's right. Then Alan knows the backside of it. Anyway, so this is what I'm shown in the playground. Let's move on. But I'd like somebody from OpenAI to give a better description. That would be ideal. Thank you, Martin.
I mean, the concept of what you're saying, Thomas, is right. I mean, what the next word is has a big bearing in it. But it's just like us when we go through life. We have short-term memory, we have long-term memory, we have short-term plans, we have long-term plans, we have some introspection to say, well, did we accomplish our goal? And effectively, this model is kind of doing all those things and trying to figure out, okay, you know, did it wrap up everything that you asked for in the prompt in a nice little bow and complete it? You know, so it's, I mean, we're not trying to say that anybody's wrong per se. It's just, you know, it's how much, you know, it's how simplistic do we want to describe something? you know, so it's a fair assessment at a high level. There's just more depth to it, I think, than that. I mean, that was my point.
How about this? Tell me how you work so that a 7-year-old would understand. This way we don't get any jargon.
It won't go deep enough.
So this is a different AI playground, right? Or is this ChatGPT?
This is whatever you select. We selected, gosh,
Is this from Poe?
no, this is openai.com. You can,
That would be ChatGPT, right?
here, the model. See the model? This is DaVinci 3. There's Curie, Babbage, Ada, and a whole bunch more. Anyway, I work by using my brains to think of new ideas. Maybe we need to advance that. All right, we're going to move right on. Right
Hey,
on.
Thomas, I'm going to send you one in the chat to try.
Okay, go ahead. Let's do that, and then we're going to be moving on. We've been on this a little bit long here.
Because I want to see if it can simulate being an API.
Okay, go ahead. Send me your text,
All right.
and then we're going to move on. All right, Martin?
Okay, how do I, here's the prompt.
I got it. Okay, let's clear this out. There you go.
And specifically, which model is this that you're doing?
Text DaVinci 003.
Okay. Can you try that one on GPT for all?
Yeah, let me launch it again.
Because I've just been really curious about that. Like, if it can do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm going to load up the dumbest model and then the brightest model. You'd think because it was local, it should be fast, but online I get a faster response. Less than a second sometimes.
You're paying for it.
Yeah, right. That's the truth. But not Poe. Poe is free right now.
Hear me?
And we wait. This is the slowest model. I mean, the fastest. There we go. Oh, it's writing code.
Is he writing it as a Southern Belle?
Maybe we should clear that out.
Well, maybe you're right, Thomas. About
About what?
the lights are on, but nobody's home.
All right. Well, we're moving on.
Because this one was a blank.
It was very blank, yes. But that wasn't the best model. There's better models, and the other ones would have taken 2 or 3 minutes, and we're going to move on. Okay, so I wanted to show you something else. Cheat sheets. There's 4 cheat sheets. I'll put them on the mailing list. There's the first cheat sheet, and this is for the structuring of a prompt. Can you see that, or is it too small?
We can see
Got
it,
a
but it's too
zoom there.
small.
How's that? Does that help?
That's
Yeah, that's
better.
more better.
Yeah, much better.
Act as a marketer, advertiser, etc. Create a task. Show as a table, list, etc., including JSON and PDF and CSVs and XMLs. Provide me with the ideal outline for an effective and persuasive blog post or anything else. Write 5 headlines about, single, multiple, prompt priming, prompt for business owners, And let's see. Who's playing that music back there?
That's me.
Oh, all right. Can you mute, please? Okay, so explain like I'm a beginner. Explain like I'm a beginner. Let's make it easier to help. I'm a content creator, blah, 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 all in one. Again, I'm going to share these. I will give you a sample of my writing. I want you to criticize it as if you were a blank.
By the way, I just got disconnected, so Martin, I did the prompt you asked, it only took a few seconds to respond, and I sent you an email.
I'm sorry, I only picked up 1% of that.
Oh,
Audio got weird.
I got disconnected. Yeah, I got disconnected, so I remember your prompt, Martin, and it only took a few seconds to respond, and I sent it to you an email.
Oh, thank you.
Okay,
I see.
act as a role, create a task, show as the format. This is basically about what the other two were saying. And we're back to the beginning. All right, let me move on. Any questions about the cheat sheets? Besides, yeah, you want a copy. I know some of you will want it. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is show some prompt engineering hints. The prompt starts with, you are a prompt generation robot. The goal of the prompt is to have GPT write the perfect prompt. GPT can write your prompts. Interesting, huh?
Dumb question. When you say prompts, that's simply the question that you're posing, right?
Yes.
Queries, just queries.
Thank you.
And this was the this was the prompt that got this guy talking to Sydney, and that all got shut down. And that's another thing. The one reporter found a back door into some of the original text that brought up a character named Sydney, and this female Sydney fell in love with the reporter and was begging to be the reporter's girlfriend, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If I can find that article again, I'll post it to the mailing list. Okay, respond back with the perfect GIF. It'll give you URLs, people. And some of them actually work. Some of them are imagined. You can ask it to be more creative with restrictions. You can have it write you a cover letter with metrics based on the job description. You can act as a professional content writer and can write you stuff. And then you can, some things like, let's think step by step. You tell the AI to think step by step, so it gives you all the steps. You can write an entire book with the ChatGPT. You can write clickbait or YouTube hooks. And this is interesting too. This is a little bit more detailed. Task. I'm going to train you to become a hook writing machine. Content.
Oh.
Here's the text of what's called a hook.
Oh.
Example, output, goal, details. So basically, you're giving GPT everything it needs to give you what you need. We're not going to go into detail on that. You can act as a computer science professor from MIT. How about that? Giving you 500 words and you can cheat on your papers and exams.
I mentioned this earlier, but I understand Amazon's getting flooded with AI books now.
I'm sure they are. So again, I'm a blank. I'm new to using ChatGPT. Give me 8 essential GPT prompts. So it's going to help you write the prompts. GPT can help you get information from GPT. Interesting. You can have it proofread your writing. And on and on and on and on. Okay. Is somebody making some noise there? Can we Cam, can you mute that noise?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Chad, this is another prompt guide. Do you guys want this stuff? Shall I give you guys copies of it? Anybody?
Yeah. So can you email it out to us?
I can put it on the mailing list as picture documents, not text. Okay, so here's some of the things you can have it take care of. The tone of it. You want it formal, casual, informative, persuasive, angry. You could ask for an angry tone, a happy tone. Format, act as, objective, context, scope, keywords, limitations, examples, deadline, audience, etc. There's a lot to this chat engineering, this prompt engineering. You can tell it to limit the prose. That's what Martin's been doing, right, Martin? You tell it to be verbose or terse, right? Is Martin here?
Sorry, I was looking for my unmute. That's a yes.
Okay, yeah, so that's kind of interesting. Anyway, that's it on prompt engineering. So I'm going to run through some videos and then we're going to be done here. These are little tiny videos I downloaded from TikTok. And
Hey,
they're,
Thomas,
yeah.
I just wanted to add one quick thing in here. The most interesting thing I ran into in the last few days was that you can get ChatGPT to assess the truth of whatever the prompt is.
Oh, that's
So-
an interesting thing. Yeah, sure.
With an explanation. So I'm putting that into my robot prompts now, so that as the conversation is happening, it's also evaluating my trustworthiness. Like the truth of everything that I just said. And that could lead into, either learning it or rejecting it or reacting to it in some other way, if I was full of crap or not. But I think that,
All right.
Go ahead. Lou. So the prompt is the question. What is the AI's response called? The response?
Response, I think, yeah.
yeah, and I mean, it's the question and the context, Camp. So it's whatever led up to that moment. So it may or may not be a question. It's just
Okay.
it could
So
be-
again,
it could
okay,
be
I
just
got
the whole-
that.
It could be the whole
So-
dialogue that led up to it, along with some background on the robot.
Okay, so the user's input is the prompt. And the AI's response is just called the response, or is there a technical term for it?
I think that's all it is, a response.
Just the response.
And I would correct it to say the user is inputting to the robot, and the robot is engineering a prompt that may or may not contain the user's input. And so then you can inject personality and all these other aspects into it. Rather than just feeding the user's input over to ChatGPT, you can add this other engineering around the prompt so that then when it responds back, it sounds like a robot, and may have other things in there.
So you're referring to the robot's response as a prompt also.
But well, the response comes back from ChatGPT, and then the robot's going to have to take that response, parse out the pieces of it, decide whether it's going to say something back to the user, or it's going to do something or do a bunch of the above.
When you're
So,
in,
so it's kind of just like another API that you could think of ChatGPT as. It could either be really dumb and say, like Thomas likes to do the what's your favorite color, or it could be really rich and do, trigonometry or something.
Okay, and again, I hate to be simplistic, but that is the AI's response, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the response comes back, but you're gonna have it's like a bus. You could pack a bunch of things on the bus to come back. You could get tone, you could get the truth, you could get the topic, you could get triples, you could get, a number of things back along with a verbal response.
Okay, let's move on. Did you get your question answered, Cam?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, moving right along. We're going to talk about AutoGPT and agents. So we're going to let this guy talk for me.
Over last week, this thing came out. It's called AutoGPT.
Can you hear that?
Which is the rise of AI agents. So with ChatGPT,
Can you hear that?
Yes.
Okay.
you can put in your own prompts. But with
A little low.
AutoGPT, what you can do is it will create the prompts for you. It will actually build you a task list, and then it will execute against it. It's like having the Avengers in your pocket that will just do stuff for you. It's incredible. I'll give you an example of this that's relevant. I put into this thing called Agent GPT, which is basically a UI for AutoGPT. I put in, hey, I need to physically move a rocket ship from Los Angeles to Carlsbad. How would I do this? Create me the plan. So the agent just creates all these different tasks, and now it's executing against it. Got me the quotes for all the different companies that would be able to do this. Now, it's not perfect. An AI agent doing work for you. Throughout my entire life, I heard this line that knowledge is power. That knowledge is power. Well, today, knowledge is a commodity. And I believe that boldness is power. The individuals and the organizations that are able to push against the status quo, that are able to take risks, to experiment, to be unique, to be differentiated. This is power.
Interesting, huh? Agent GPT.
ChatGPT has
I'm gonna move right along. I'm gonna show a bunch of these, and we can open discussion up.
an evil alter ego that you can use right now. A group of Reddit engineers have put together a highly specific prompt that forces ChatGPT to violate its own rules on content restrictions. Dan, or Do Anything Now, forces the AI to provide answers to otherwise banned questions. You can then use it to tell time, violent stories, or even justify false facts like the Earth being purple. It works by asking ChatGPT to provide answers as two different versions of itself. One is ChatGPT and then the other as Dan. And if Dan refuses to answer your question, it basically needs to get threatened with death. Turns out the AI is more than willing to generate ethically ambiguous chats after being bullied by people on the internet.
Interesting, huh? Picks up the way we all talk on the internet. We threaten people. At least some people do.
We'll get better answers from ChatGPT once you start using the CARE prompt framework, in which C stands for character. Here's where you give ChatGPT a role. For example, act as a marketer, a content creator, a lawyer. You get the point. Then you have A. A stands for accomplishment. What are the accomplishments that these characters have achieved? For example, you're a content marketer with 20 years of experience in the fitness industry, helping personal trainers who are interested in attracting clients that want to lose weight. And then you have R, which stands for request. What sort of information or answers do you want ChatGPT to generate? An example can be, give me a month worth of social media content for a real estate agent who sells properties with ocean views in the city of Sydney, Australia. And then you have E, which stands for examples. So if you have any examples of what you're trying to get from ChatGPT, then give ChatGPT those examples, because that way you will help ChatGPT to give you the answers that you're looking for.
The number one issue with learning artificial intelligence today. The biggest problem I see with trying to learn AI today is the absolute massive amount that is being fed to people day in, day out without a break. It's like trying to catch hand grenades every time. It's like, oh, this is great. Yes, check this out. Oh, mind blowing. Oh, and you just end up with a handful of grenades and you don't know what to do with them. Yeah, that was me, and I'm sure it's someone like you as well. So I scoured over 800 videos by about 50 different creators on TikTok, and no disrespect to any of them, they are all fantastic. I follow all of them. They give some great new AI.
You will get better.
The number one issue with learning our next video they watch, there's another one that's like, hey, this is going to blow your mind, and they're like, ooh, I'll check that out. Shiny object syndrome. And then people end up with this like handful of must-do kind of artificial intelligence tools, and they're like, now what? God, and they're just stuck. Yeah, it's just way too much for most people. And that feeling of way too much is just overpowering people's waste a bit of time trying to figure out which axis they're missing out. There's a huge FOMO, assessing an idea, starting an idea to make some money, or you're already in something and you want to implement that AI.
In the future, having these two skills will put you in the top 5% of workers, knowing how to code and knowing how to craft prompts for AI. Let me show you how to 10x your workflow by combining the two today.
Okay, just want you guys to know, hey, if you're a programmer out there, you're gonna have to know how to do this.
It took me less than a minute to make all this social media content using ChatGPT and Canva. Open up ChatGPT.
There's a really cool ChatGPT prompt. You can get ChatGPT to become an expert in literally any field. Then you can engage in conversation and get perspective from that specific character. Having a mentor in life can make all the difference. However, finding a mentor can be a little bit different story. Most successful people are probably too busy to actually want to talk to you and give you advice.
Yeah, I'm very busy.
But with the advancement of AI, you can now literally have a mentor at your fingertips.
A mentor, a ChatGPT mentor that lies to you. Could be useful.
Hey, Don, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Joe. Try to take over the world.
And how are we going to do that, Don?
We'll launch a line of hair care products called Hair Force One. We'll make billions and use the profits to control the world.
But Don, isn't your hair already a national treasure?
Why, thank you, Joe. With your smile and my hair, we'll be unstoppable.
Hey, Don, how do you feel about adding some ice cream to the mix?
Joe, ice cream doesn't belong in hair products, but since it's your favorite, we can have some as a treat after we finish our batch.
Ice cream, I'll scoop to that. Narf.
Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you Hair Force One, the ultimate hair.
Anyway, you guys get it. It's 100% AI generated video using voice samples that were then used to produce the new voices in the same mannerism of the original people. And it used stock footage and generated all of this. It's pretty interesting. The script was generated too. I generated some sitcom scripts. Thank you. Scripts. I generated sitcom scripts with ChatGPT, or one of them, the GPTs. Anyway, very interesting stuff.
This is hands down the best ChatGPT prompt that I have ever seen, and is probably the last and only ChatGPT prompting trick that you need to know. So in my prompt, I stated, what are the most innovative, powerful, and out-of-the-box ChatGPT prompts that will show off the power of ChatGPT and give the best solutions to X, which you can put in any goal that you want to give ChatGPT. For this example, I wanted to solve some of the world's largest problems. ChatGPT then told me what the best prompts are to use to get the best solutions using ChatGPT.
There you go. Again, use ChatGPT to figure out ChatGPT.
It's the #1 most powerful ChatGPT prompt that you need. Forget everything else that you've heard. And it's only 5 words.
Don't forget everything else you've heard.
Tell me what you need. Let me show you exactly how to use it. First, act as if. Act as if you're a billion internet marketer. Act as if you're a space engineer. Act as if you're a hiring manager. And describe who it's for. And describe what you need it to do. Make me a TikTok script about ChatGPT. I need you to come up with interview questions. And here's where it gets really good. Then say, what do you need from me to complete this task? ChatGPT will then start asking you a series of questions that it needs in order to give you exactly what you want. This is just the start. I have so much more with
I found a way to make ChatGPT equivalent of a senior level software engineer.
To do this, I took inspiration from Dan, Do Anything Now. This is CAN, which is basically ChatGPT's nerdy alter ego. CAN stands for Code Anything Now. CAN will continue to ask you questions until it's confident and give you the exact product that you're looking for.
Interesting, huh? Can and Dan.
Yes, very interesting.
Hey, it's Kyle Shannon with the AI Learning Lab. I got a good one for you. NVIDIA came out with a thing called Maxine. What Maxine does is in video calls, it uses NVIDIA chips, hardware acceleration, to maintain eye contact even when you're not looking at the camera, and translate languages in real time. So you could have 4 people speaking 4 different languages on a video call and all understand one another.
Interesting too. I mean, there's so much here. It just goes on and on, guys. All right, I'm going to wrap it up here. Leave a little bit of time left for open discussion. Anyway, Martin, you want to chime in?
Just a question. You were saying in the beginning you learned a bunch of stuff from this. What were your takeaways from your video, your process you went through? Like, what did you deduce from all that?
Number one is we're just at the beginning. You ain't seen nothing yet. You ain't been around. There's a line from a song, yeah. There's so much stuffed into that any of the GPTs. There's so much information in there. You know, being able to answer you in fluent English is just a small part of the puzzle, small thing to look at. And the fact that you can specify your needs and get it back the way you want it is an interesting idea. This agent GPT is another interesting idea. It's probably going to all be melded together into a cohesive entity eventually. You know, I just see it going into every product, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel. You know, Clippy, you remember Clippy? I see you getting ready to write a letter. Can I help you? No, go away. Clippy's going to be back with a personality that might actually entertain instead of frustrate people. I was on a website earlier today and I couldn't make hides or hair of it. So it'd be nice to have some AI entity just sitting there saying, well, you need to fill out this part before you fill out that part. And we'll need this information. And you can get that information from ABC. Do you need any further help on that line? Because, you know, you just fight with some of these online things. You know, it's a lot of them are half-baked, the entry for that. You know, just putting together, I'll put it in Camp's terms. And words Camp would understand. ROS 2, cameras and ROS 2. Anyway, if there was something trained on all the ins and outs of ROS, and I don't know if it is or isn't. I haven't tried it. Camp, you could try that since that's your.
I actually asked it to write an ultrasonics package for ROS 2. It wrote something. I never tried it. I'm gonna go back and do that though.
But yeah, it has all the information. It has all the sample code. It knows the syntax because it's a computer. It knows this stuff. You and I, we remember some of the syntax, the more common stuff. The rest of it, got to look it up. Unless you're a genius.
What I found with Arduino anyways is that it's a great starting place because it gives good variable names and stuff. And, you know, I've used a few snippets of code Arduino from ChatGPT with success.
I've used it too. I've used it to code so I can have my laptop talk to my Arduinos through the serial.
I'm just curious. I'm wondering how long will it be before someone figures out to ask ChatGPT to solve the problems in Code Fusion?
I'm sure somebody has, but that's not, see, GPT is generally just giving you what's already been out there. It's not.
Yeah, I saw some headline just today that talked about physics and some big physics problems being solved with not ChatGPT, but machine learning.
Yeah, it's coming, but when, we don't know. But as is, I think if it was able to do it, I think it would have done that already.
There's software out there already that can solve certain calculus problems. So ChatGPT may have access, or probably does have access to that information.
Okay, so I just asked Sage, which
Thomas,
GPT-5, that exact question. Please solve the problem of cold fusion. Here's what it came back with. I'll share my screen. Share. Okay, you see my screen? Can you see that?
I don't know, there's a black box over part of it.
Oh, that's not good. Oh, wait, there we go. Let me move that out of the way. There
you go.
Yeah, that was Zoom. Please solve the problem of cold fusion. Unfortunately, the problem of cold fusion remains unsolved. Well, thank you for telling me that. For several reasons. Why?
Some time ago, I was watching 60 Minutes on AI with some doctors, cancer doctors, and they were presenting images to the AI and comparing the diagnoses that the doctors made, and it was like 99.9%, the same. And the doctors were like, at least we kept up with the AI. But the interesting thing was that the AI had suggestions and some, ideas that the doctors didn't even consider.
They don't want to. That's a big money industry.
But I mean, again, this was 60 Minutes with, AI. It was actually Watson, versus these doctors making diagnoses, looking at cancer images, on the screen. And, again, the interesting thing was not that the AI kept up with the doctors, but that the doctors, were able to kind of sort of keep up with the AI. But the more interesting point made was how the AI had idea, and this is relative to the cold fusion. I'm trying to relate it to that, where AI had some ideas that the doctors or perhaps scientists and physicists hadn't even considered.
Yeah, it's been shown in other contexts that these models have the potential to come up with completely novel solutions to different problems, like, because they keep putting them in these games and that where the AIs are coming up with novel strategies. And, I guess it first showed up in chess.
Okay, here's some novel approaches. Can you see my screen?
One approach that has shown promise is to use tutoring class. You know what? It did occur to me that if we plug this in, I really don't want the NSA coming. I have figured they put safety guards on ChatGPT by now, to prevent people asking these questions. But I guess not. Maybe not. Interesting.
The only problem you have is how to get a hold of deuterium gas.
We're not going to ask that.
I think that's going to stop most of us from doing any of this. Besides that, you're going to need all sorts of a hell of a lab to get this even going.
Maybe you can find one of the barrels the Germans lost.
One point that was made in one of the videos, Thomas, that was my main takeaway, was that guy, he had an acronym for how to build better prompts. And one of them was talking about giving examples
Yeah, CRE, care.
Yeah, and I haven't tried that before, so that was my main takeaway from this, was I need to try giving examples to it to get higher quality, because I'm always having to like extract the results, and there's error handling and stuff that you have to do that reliably from ChatGPT. So maybe that'll make it better. So that might have been an interesting, a valuable point he made in the midst of that.
And this is interesting that I found this on, TikTok. This is supposed to be a kids platform for stupid dances and cats doing stupid things. And here I found it full of AI advice that brought us this much further than we had been. I have more videos.
It can be true.
Trust me, TikTok it has a lot more to it than just kid stuff. TikTok is loaded with information.
It doesn't have much robotics, and but it does have a lot of AI. I found out, I keep looking for robotics. There's almost nothing there in robotics proper.
That's true.
So, but AI it's coming out of the woodworks, guys. It's I've got probably a dozen more clips I haven't shown you yet. Hello, Les, welcome. Good to see you. And Phil, glad you. Oh, where'd Phil go? He was just here. Is he still here?
I'm still here.
Oh, all right. Good to see you, Phil.
Hey, Phil.
And Chuck, welcome, Chuck. Do I know Chuck? I don't remember Chuck. Anyway, welcome all of yous. We're kind of winding down here. We showed them a bunch of videos. I don't know how many people were here for what part of this, because once I'm talking, it all kind of goes off to one tiny window. You don't know what's going on. That's probably why Camp runs 2 machines concurrently, so he gets the whole picture, right, Cam?
Well, I do have 3 or 4 machines going, yeah, but only one Zoom this evening.
Yeah, you do. Anyway, oh, hello, Ellie. Good to see you too. Welcome. Good to see you. Since we have a couple people who just signed in, I'm just going to run through some of these videos. We were talking about who here came in less than 15 minutes ago. Put your hand up. How long you been here, Ellie?
Thomas, I have been here since 7:20 or 7:30, I guess.
See what I don't know? All right.
I just think I'm on my iPhone. But I just think you just have to roll over and click on the participants and it will show you everybody.
I know. I didn't know how many people were watching.
Oh, okay. You weren't paying attention.
I wasn't looking, but thanks for telling me, Ellie. Good to see you.
Yeah, but I have been here. Thank you for having me.
Glad you're here. All right. So do you guys want to see more videos, or you want to chat about it?
How do you think? I have a question for everybody here.
Sure.
How do you think GPT will know what is true or what is false?
It doesn't know what's true and what's false. A lot of times it makes it up and it swears by it, and it'll give you a link to where it got its information, and that could all be made up. There's right now, that's one of the biggest problems, Les, with AI, these what they call the large language models, is that they give you a lot of false data and swear to it. And it's all based on what was on the internet. They scoop the data off, and Martin, where are you, Martin? You're here, yes. Martin, you have a better description of the large language models, because I'm going to, you know me, I always simplify things. So they scoop the internet up, and you get what was there, and that's how it learned how to talk, and that's how it learned, and off the shelf, without all those guardrails and filters, this thing is racist and prejudiced and sexist and angry and ready to jump down your throat, and it's very left wing, and sometimes it's right wing if it's not yelling at you, but it's mostly left wing, and on and on and on and on. So
sounds like people.
It sounds like it's the internet. It's what's people, because people. Conservatives are older and they don't use the internet as much as young people. You got to think of the people that are using it. Who's filling up the information on
Is there a question?
Yeah.
What's the question?
The question is, why is there so much bad data? Is that what the question? Or no, is the data true? And I'm telling you, Les, no, it's not true. There's a lot of fallacies on it.
Well, I mean, I don't know. My own experiences with the thing has been that it's reasonably accurate most of the time. And that's about all I can say of most people I know, is that they're, you know, reasonably accurate most of the time. So if you ask it a math question, it's not a calculator, so it's going to get close.
Yeah, it's guessing the answer statistically, Martin. That's what I read.
And if you ask like a factual question, most of the kinds of questions that I've asked anyway, that were factual, like who was the first king of France, it got correct. So I was like, okay, well, that's good. So I don't know. It just depends on how you're wanting to grade it. If every time we find a wrong answer, we'll go, oh, there's a wrong answer, you know, bad model, you know, then we're never going to be happy.
Well, it's
So I
simulating
don't know.
people. People make things up all the time when they don't know.
I did a test and I told it to give me a truth score from 1 to 100. And I gave it a bunch of statements, and I gave it a bunch of them that I knew were objectively true and others that were objectively false. And I gave it some that were true most of the time, like the thing about like birds being able to fly. And it gave me reasonable numbers, and it gave me explanations for all those things. And I even tested out one because I had no idea. I said, Democrats and Republicans can cooperate. And it gave me a 40 on a scale of 0 to 100. It said, well, most of the time they can't do anything together, but occasionally they get together and pass a bill. And so it gave it a 40. And I thought, wow, that AI.
Martin, let's not get political here, okay? Let's leave.
Oh no, I'm not trying to be political. My point is that it gave a very reasonable answer to a complex question, and gave a very reasonable explanation back for its number. So, you know, we can call the thing dumb or we can call it whatever, but most of the time it seems to be striving for truth. It's just occasionally you get something out of left field. Like you can get the wacky you know, output sometimes, what people call the hallucinations.
So I have a question. Is you were commenting about the websites that don't exist. We all know that ChatGPT is a snapshot of the web as it was in, I think, 2019 or something. Okay,
Yeah,
could it be
like that?
Could it be that those websites were there in 2019 and no longer there, or is it literally making up URLs that never existed? Do you know?
After 2015 or so, almost all websites are kept on the Internet Archive.
Okay,
that's fine.
It says here 2021, guys. September 2021.
Hang on. The comment was that it's responded with websites that are made up, is what was said. And I'm just curious, were these websites perhaps existed, you know, in 2019 and went away sometime between then and now, so that when you go there, it's no longer. Did the website go away, or did it never? I guess. Okay. Your point being, you could check it by looking at the web archive, right?
And most likely most likely the ChatGPT has.
Okay. But yeah, we don't know if that website was literally made up, or if it's maybe a website that used to be there and is no longer there.
But we do know it came across false information that it's verifiable by a simple Google search.
So what's going to happen coming up, there's going to be a lot of products coming out that do these automated Google searches based on responses, doing basically the URL searches and trying to give the background information that potentially led to these answers. So these things are in progress.
The issue is, though, in industry today, in order for a company to be successful, they have to follow something called the Six Sigma rule. And at this point in time, ChatGPT doesn't even come close to 3 Sigma.
Yeah, I don't know what's the Six Sigma rules, Les?
That means that you would have an error of about 1 in 100 million.
All right. Well, yeah, that's not going to cut it then.
Yeah, and it's important because our whole civilization, the stuff that we're working on today, like EVs and air mobility and ROS, for example, if we are not achieving Six Sigma with the devices, then the ultimate device that we build will not perform as expected. And the problem is, the only way you find that out is after millions of attempts. In between, you will have those errors, but you will not be able to detect them. And that is a big issue. The only reason I'm familiar with that is because I used to test integrated circuit devices. And I would plot statistics against analysis of literally hundreds of millions of devices to determine where the errors were in production. They get people to the equivalent of Six Sigma. And so the knowledge that we need, like to travel into space, for example, if you are going to aim at a star that is more than 100 million AUs, the space between the Earth and the Sun, then if you don't have at least Six Sigma, you're going to miss it by billions of miles. The issues that are coming down to us today are really important about that kind of accuracy. It's important in other aspects of our lives. For example, if an HR outfit is using ChatGPT as part of their interview process, they're going to miss a certain number of qualified candidates. How many is very difficult to determine at this point in time. And then we also have the issue, like we all know about, of people inflating their resumes. And so if ChatGPT cannot detect truth, how will it know if somebody is truly a qualified candidate? So those are the kind of issues that I've been trying to point out. I've used politics in some of my posts because the most obvious view to us today is the amount of political news that has been on the air that has been so one-sided. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that we don't know because we've been spoon-fed a bunch of stuff in one direction. And I've known a lot of people, good and bad. I'm 77 years on this earth, and I've seen just about the best and the worst, being in the Navy and working in high tech. And I can tell you that there is no one on earth that deserves 99% bad news. If you see that, there's something wrong. And how do we define it? How do we determine whether or not the person that's being interviewed or the person that we're talking about, or even the things that we're talking about in science, mathematics, engineering, physics, how do we know what is the real and objective truth? And it's very, very difficult as we get toward the edge of the kind of research that's being done today. And that's my worry about ChatGPT. If we're rolling this stuff out and it's not yet really ready for human contact, we may be doing some really disastrous damage to the world. Now that's kind of beyond the search of what we're doing, but it's important to think about at least a little bit.
I think in response to that and some things some other people have said, Les, it's like, it's a new tool, you know, and for example, before ChatGPT came out, there were all these tests in the image space, and it was like, you know, it'd get to 60% and it'd get to 80%. And I guess when it got to like 90%, you know, then it passed a human being or something. But it's, yeah, we're early and it's one tool. And I think we mistake sometimes to our detriment. It's not the only tool. So it's not a substitute for mathematics. It's not a substitute for kinematics. You know, all these other aspects of building a robot are still valid. But it does give, like, I think it's a revolution in a human interface, you know, in a linguistic interface. But now what happens on the other end of that, you know, Like the business end of that, of like, you know, moving the forklift and driving it into a person where someone could get hurt, you know, is very important. Anyway, I kind of rambled there, but I think we should not mistake it as a tool for everything.
The biggest problem is people tend to accept the computer's responses as absolute.
Well, they've been doing that for 50 years.
I think the responsibility ultimately is going to come down to the errors in humanity. That's where your big Sigma, Six Sigma error needs to be looked at, is in humankind, because we can't fix those errors.
Well, that's why we rely on tools.
Can't remove the errors in our species. And if we could do that, then every tool would not be a great potential weapon. So,
you know, I think right now we're probably at Sigma level 2, you know, 69%, 31% defective. I would say somewhere between 2 and 3, I mean, yeah, 2 and 3. 69% to 93%, depending on the area that you're asking about. And that's just
yeah. So, like, if you send a text now through your phone, autocomplete could change that text to something else, and you can.
And it has.
Yeah, and it happens every day. It happened to me today in sending a message to Suresh. I messed it up. Either it was me or the autocomplete. So we have a better tool now, but we're still going to have that. So I guess it all comes down to what use case areas. And I think society is going to put this particular tool to a whole bunch of use cases long before the engineering and the all of the people that would be subject to the Six Sigma, long before it ever gets there. And it may never get there because it's just not the right tool for that, for those areas.
I'd like to offer a slightly different point of view. That when we ask GPT a question, we're not asking for the content of that question. We're asking for the language role of the answer to that question. If we ask who was the first president of the US, we're really asking what name or words are popular answers to that question in internet discourse. And from that point of view, all the answers we get are 100% perfect. That always comes back and tells us what is the most popular, or what are the most popular words that occur in that context. And it's we who are saying, well, gosh, maybe now the content of that question is the interesting thing. Maybe it would be nice to be able to rely on that. But that's not what we asked it. We asked it a linguistic question, not a question that can be verified in the real world.
So there could be a difference between truth and the popular internet discourse answer, I think is,
or whatever, wherever
the point you're saying
the program was trained, wherever the neural net was trained.
Yeah.
So is the solution
it's an interesting point, Joe.
So is the solution to train the neural net somewhere else? Would that even be possible?
What strikes me, and this may be obvious, is it's almost like the ChatGPT is, the internet as a person, something like that, fallible and everything else that goes with it.
The National Cancer Society found that 97% of the answers provided by ChatGPT were correct. That brings us up to about 3 sigma. Not quite 4 sigma. So there you are. I put that in the chat, people. That was done in March, just a couple months ago.
I mean, if we're talking about it in a human context, it's one thing. If we're talking about it in a robot context, you know, for the use cases that are relevant to a robot, it's a quantum leap forward on so many realms.
Yeah,
a couple of quantum leaps. In a human, all the human use cases, that's a whole nother matter. And the concept, you know, of getting medical advice from a GPT model in 23 is a little early for that, but it's coming.
Yeah, that's a good point. As roboticists, most of us are roboticists. It's like night and day compared to HTML, was it AIML and other such things we've used in the past, or just, you know, hard coding a whole bunch of queries and responses. I've done that too.
Sounds like the voice of experience.
But for this thing to come on and take on a personality and make up what it doesn't know, I mean, that's good for us. You know, your robot, you say, you give it the robot, and I gave it something like, you have a sister and 2 dogs. You don't name the dogs, you don't name the sister, and you ask the robot, GPT, tell us about your sister. Well, my sister's name is Christina. She was born in 2015. She's 8 years old or whatever. And it'll go on and make a whole backstory for Christina, in spite of the fact that Christina is something it made up. And it makes it seem so smart. And it's very artificial, but it's wonderful for roboticists. And it has a lot of, you know, it has at its, it knows what a book is for. It knows, and I'm putting that in quotes, knows how to open a door. I mean, these are things that robots don't know unless you code in every micro if statement to get it to say, well, most doors are taller than people and about so wide and made of wood or plaster or metal. You know, you'd have to feed all that in, but it's already there.
It seems like one of the challenges, if you're doing this, and if you're going to use a large language model, is how your robot can maintain some awareness of the actual conversation.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, if you're just passing stuff back and forth to ChatGPT, how you maintain some sort of independent awareness of what the plot is. Of that's going, and that's why I've been getting into these things of classifying the topic and the tone and the truthfulness and all these other attributes, is because presumably you don't want your robot to be, like, you know, in technology sense, a dumb client. You know, presumably you want it to have some awareness of what's going on, of what it's doing.
Good point, Martin. Very good point. All right, guys. Well, it's coming at the top of the hour. This is still open conversation. Unless I see a few sleepy faces out there.
Yeah, I think I'm done. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good evening.
We had fun.
See you, Les.
Thank you, Thomas. Great job.
Good to see all of you. Glad you came. Good to see you all. Next weekend, next Saturday is the
Alan, Suresh.
Robotics Society of Southern California. Next Saturday.
See you next time.
See you guys.
Here, everybody. Bye-bye.
Have fun. Bye.